things.
Great.
Yeah.
I mean, you and I just talked about how you always say that no matter what. But
My default really is so good.
Sure.
That's what I always say. So good.
Yeah. Like,
I'm not
arms
so good.
like chopped off and bleeding out. And
like, I'm not so good. I don't know why I say that.
Yeah. Is that a Utah thing? Is that like,
I think
is that like a happy, shiny people
Probably.
kind of thing?
Probably.
That's my default too, but I actually am. Well, things are going great, honestly.
Tell me about the company. How did you get started? Like, let's go deep on that.
Let's go deep. So, company was started in 2014. I'm not the founder. I came on in 2019. So it's been almost 5 years now. And Canopy's always been in the accounting space, super sexy thing that, I grew up wanting to work in. No, I didn't, but
do you have an accounting degree?
No,
did you go into accounting?
No.
Yeah,
I'm a vertical SaaS guy.
Yeah.
So this is just sort of the latest stop on the vertical SaaS train for me. But always been in accounting. I came on in 2019 and we sort of focused on one thing that the company had kind of been doing, but it was doing a bunch of other stuff too. So I came on and we sell software that helps accountants run their practices. So it's just kind of like system of record, not dissimilar to like a Weave for dental offices. And, there's differences, but, even in structure where I was, like just that piece of software that runs the day-to-day. That's kind of what we do.
Yeah, it's usually like the kind of mundane, really like complicated niche things that just take off.
Yeah. Well, it's like, I can't remember. I read this post once. It was talking about how Stripe, they had such a good phrase for it, but it was like the grossness of something is sort of your moat, right? So it's like the grossness of payments. Like everyone was like,
yeah,
that's gross. And so the grossness quotient in like these kind of like workhorse system of record software applications is pretty high, right? Like if you're some YC person, you're going to be like, I'm going to go build, TikTok for, some niche or whatever. So that is like one of the great things about building a business like this. It may not be the sexiest thing, but it's you can build a big, great company. And Structure just sold for $5 billion or something.
What a huge win.
Yeah. Which is funny because
unbelievable.
I know people, I feel like people kind of know it, but it's not maybe top of mind for Utah software companies. And I think that's the
second biggest exit.
I think it's just below Qualtrics maybe.
Yeah.
It's up there.
I can't think of anything bigger than 5.
Yeah. So it's, again, like they take a while to build. They don't like take off immediately. It's a little bit more of a slow burn, but you do it right. Like you can build a really big, enduring, cool company.
How long were you an instructor?
I was there for 4 years. So I got there like 2013.
Was Josh CEO still?
Yeah. He was CEO the whole time I was there. So I was like 200 people when I got there. And then we did an IPO and I left, I don't know, a little bit after that. I'm not really like a public company kind of person.
Yeah.
Different ballgame.
Well, what a huge win that was.
Yeah.
So for the accounting software that in Canopy, what is AI doing to all this?
Boy, that's the $1 million question, $1 billion question. Here's what's so weird about AI. I feel like normally some technology comes along and usually as a software provider, you're thinking about, okay, well, how can we integrate that within our technology?
Mm-hmm.
So we definitely have that with AI. You have two other elements, which are how can we leverage the technology to build the software? So suddenly you've got these tools that, at least in theory, make everyone, but especially engineers, really much more productive. And then you have this other element of how's this going to impact our customer and the accounting firms. And so there's like, 9-dimensional chess sort of going on as you're trying to think about that. And the other thing is it's just changing so much, right? And you're in this like hype cycle and then people get bummed out because it like kind of doesn't maybe do what they were hoping, at least for the time being. So I think like taking each of those separately, I think, you talk to our engineers and they're like, it's super helpful. They are dismissive of the idea and maybe they're wrong, but I trust them at least for the, near future that like you're just going to be able to whip up like a Canopy level kind of application. Just, put it in Claude and be like, build this for me.
I don't think you can do that.
Yeah. No, you definitely can't. I think the question is like,
at what
will
point
you ever be able to?
Well, when we're to that point, what are we all going to do?
I don't know. We're going to go hang out in the park, you and me, and toss a Frisbee around. I don't know.
As soon as we get to that point, the whole world is different.
Yeah. It's sort of like you have bigger concerns and considerations. Then it's like,
bigger problems.
How are we going to order society, not how am I going to keep this SaaS company going? I think on the integrating it within our software, we're doing that. There's a lot of menial, dumb work that happens in an accounting firm, just like in almost every business, but certainly in professional services businesses. So we've done some cool stuff, but we're doing some really cool stuff that, will take us a little bit. But I will say, like, our initial spec for like, this was kind of around like, reading documents, classifying documents, was maybe a little optimistic around AI capabilities. And
I think everybody was that.
Yeah. Like you were sort of thinking like, and it'll still do cool stuff, but there are limitations to what it can do now. And then on this last piece, what does it do? I mean, my theory, and it's just a theory, is that there's two schools of thought, and you know this too, but the first is like, it's a qualitatively different technological innovation. You can't compare it to anything that's come before because it's intelligent. The other one is like, it's just more of the same. It's like the internet or the steam engine or the railroad or whatever. And it will, in the short term, displace some people, but it will free people up to go do things that humans are better at.
Yeah.
And I think I incline towards that school of thought. Like it's hard for me to imagine, both from a technological capability perspective, as well as from a human desire perspective, you being like, yeah, robot, like tell me, what I should do with my taxes. And people don't even want to do that with TurboTax, right? Like they've like advisors. So I don't know. There's so much strategic, creative thinking in accounting, which I know is not like the stereotype, but that's actually true, that it's a little tough for me to imagine that completely going away. But I for sure think that, the 20 people in a firm, a 20-person firm, there's 5 people that are doing pretty like moving paper.
Yeah.
And I think, AI over time, will help that. But my hope is then those 5 people can go do more.
Whatever they want.
Yeah.
Go
more
write
interesting.
a play.
Yeah.
Go write a movie.
Within the firm, or they could go do other things. So
I think, we're not meant to be tied to these devices. This is a very new thing in humanity. Most of humanity was like, oh, let's just go outside.
Sure.
And we'll spend the whole day outside.
Well, have you seen there's like these pictures you see on Twitter of like famous sports moments from like the 90s of like Michael Jordan, and everyone's just like in the moment and they're just enjoying it. And then it'll contrast it now to like Steph Curry hitting a 3, and every single person's like got this device between them and the moment.
I hate that.
I do too.
I hate being in a game and somebody's got their phone and they're videoing. I'm on what?
Like who's are you going to show that to?
You're going to go look at that later? Like they're doing a professional production of it. You can go look at.
Right. It's on TNT.
Like there's cameras everywhere.
It's on TNT. And it's like got Charles Barkley. It's better. I know. I see that with like people hiking with like GoPros or skiing. I'm like, who's watching that?
To what end?
You don't even want to watch that. Yeah. Your neighbor doesn't want to watch that.
The only thing it's cool for is filming your kids. And even then, you only want to watch your kid stuff.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly.
Nobody wants like, hey, here's my kid who did this talent show.
Watch my kid.
Just wait. She comes on in 15 minutes. It's like, I don't think so.
Yeah. That's how they like, you go to kids' recitals or concerts, and it's like, I'm convinced whatever teacher figures out that you could offer parents a 5-minute slot to see your kid and not stay for the 2 hours, you could charge like 10x for that. Like your kid's going to play piano from 7:25 to 7:30. I mean, you'd pay a lot of money for that, right?
I would.
Not go from 7 to 9.
Which is probably a problem, actually, right? Like that probably is, like we need everything to happen so fast. And we need, it's probably like not a good thing, but I mean, literally anything that would automate my day. Do I have to do like anything I don't like doing? That'd be cool.
For sure. Yeah. That's what, I think back to the AI thing, like that's the hope, right?
Mm-hmm.
The hope is, although, I saw some tweet or something that was like, I didn't envision AI taking over like, creative like music, or professional services, and then like leaving us to like clean the bathrooms, So there's maybe a little bit of concern there, but in general, like I'm hopeful it will just take the 20% of your day that kind of sucks away.
Yeah. It'd be cool if it could like work out for you.
Oh, amazing. Like
That'd
you
be
go to
kind of
sleep
interesting.
and then like,
And it's just like doing it somehow. I don't know how it would do it.
Getting jacked. Yeah. I know.
Which is really interesting. What does a typical day look like for you as CEO?
Man, I mean, we most of us go in the office a couple days a week. So we're kind of like hybrid. Which depending on who you believe is the best of all worlds or the worst, I tend to think more the best, but, it's mostly like, I mean, it's a weird job actually. Like this is my first CEO gig. And, I guess I was surprised a little bit. There's a lot of, it's sort of like feast and famine. Like there are times where it just feels so crazy and you have no control over it. Right. And you're just sort of at the mercy of your schedule. And then that can kind of calm down. And like when those times calm down, you're like, oh, like that's mostly around fundraising usually.
Yeah.
But yeah, I try to meet with our team. I try to meet with a lot of customers. That's, I think, one area as you scale that can maybe lose a little touch with. And then, yeah, I'm pretty up to speed with our board, and I try to like, there's two schools of thought I've heard like on fundraising. One is like, if you're fundraising, fundraise, and then don't do anything with investors and be totally focused on your company. I sort of take the opposite approach. Like I have my like core group of people that I at some point would love to raise money from. And I try to like stay up with them reasonably frequently and be keeping them up to date on the story.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like mix of all that stuff.
How much is Canopy raised?
Well, in total, gosh, a lot. Probably like 140, 150. That's a lot. It's a lot. Since I've been there, I think it's been around, I want to say like 70, 80, last 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
How do you think about that? How do you think about raising money? How do you think about when to raise money? How do you think about burn rates?
Yeah.
Like how many employees do you have?
We have 170 people.
Okay.
Yeah. It's, so I was staying at this little cabin and it just had a wood burning stove, right? So there's no central heat or air. And it was the winter. And so like it'd get cold and I'd like notice my like kids put on like, sweaters and start to like huddle under blankets. So I'd go and I like stoke this fire. And then like an hour later, like my son would take his shirt off and then like the toddler's like got sweat down his face. So then you're like, you kind of take it easy. And an hour later, everyone's freezing, right?
Yeah.
And that's the best metaphor I have for raising money and burn, which is, it's not a thermostat. Like, and people, I think, get frustrated when venture-backed companies raise money, hire, and then, have cuts. And I get it. Like cuts suck. Like I don't want to minimize that. Losing your job is awful. And it's happened to me early in my career. I got laid off. It's horrible. So I don't want to minimize that. But getting those various levers like exactly right is super hard because number one, you're making bets about the future that are really challenging. If you're doing if you're Pluralsight or Qualtrics or whatever, it's like not that hard, right? You have years of data and it's a pretty stable business. But, if you're planning on growing 100% or 120% or 80%, like that's going to change your business really dramatically. But if you grow 60% instead of 100%, like it's changes your cash needs, your burn, your runway really quickly too. So, there's no perfect way to do it. The other thing is like the ground beneath your feet is shifting so frequently with regards to the fundraising market, right? It's like the minute the public SaaS companies start seeing their stocks go down, it like flows very quickly into the venture markets.
Yeah.
Like, which it seems kind of dumb, right? It's like, oh, Workday had a bad quarter, but like over time
Why would that matter? That doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't.
Actually.
It actually makes zero sense.
Because it's not like you're going public that quarter.
No. So, and it's not like...
that makes no sense at all.
No,
That's interesting.
No, it is really interesting. But it's like if you... It is like... I mean, it takes a second. It's not like the next day. But like multiples are the coin of the realm, right? So it's like, your 10x multiple. And they'll plug some individual data points in there, but like there's kind of a formula, and it's going to be around your key metrics, primarily growth. But the multiple that they assign to you is primarily like a market-driven thing.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make any sense. It's stupid because they're just so fundamentally different. This like huge public behemoth versus this like, 5 million ARR company that's growing 100%, that's burning cash. But I don't know. Maybe it's just for lack of something better. I don't know.
It's interesting that you have to think like, I hope Workday has a good quarter.
Yeah.
That's so weird.
Yeah. And it's not down to the like individual company quarter level, but like for sure, like, there's like a bunch of people that send something out, the Jamin Ball, there's all these people that track the public SaaS companies. And that very much does flow down into the sentiment among venture capitalists. Like, no question. And a lot of it even goes back to interest rates, right? So it's like kind of dumb when you think about it's like the Fed cuts rates, raises rates, and then like domino, $5 million ARR company suddenly can't raise money. It's not a great system, honestly.
No, it's a wild system. Yeah. It's totally erratic and unstable.
Well, and I think it gives rise to the frustration. And this is where I have a ton of appreciation for. There's sort of two kinds of investors. And there are those who are actually like looking for yield by taking risk that's non-consensus. And then there's people that are just going to go do what everyone else is doing.
They have a formula. If it doesn't fit in this formula, we don't do it. If it fits, we're doing it.
And they don't want to look stupid, right? And so it's like, they kind of do the left thing and the right thing. And there's all kinds of jokes and memes about that.
I look stupid all the time. I don't know why people are so worried about that. Just try.
You've done just great. I mean,
well, everyone's like, no wonder.
No, I mean, I think I spent my early career on Wall Street, and
you did trading?
I was an equity research analyst.
Oh, okay.
And so we would, we'd have a basket of 20 stocks we cover, and we would advise like hedge funds and other buy side people on it. And my boss, who was just the smartest guy, was like, look, I'm going to tell you something. People would rather be wrong together than risk being wrong alone, but with the upside of being right alone. So it's like when you're staring, it's like, well, I'm alone. And if I'm alone and right, this is going to be amazing. If I'm wrong and alone, I'm going to look so dumb. And so I'm probably going to just kind of try to be wrong or right together. And I think that that's just a pretty powerful human.
That's a very sanitized version of the Wolf of Wall Street, Matthew McConaughey scene.
Yeah. I don't know the
it's
scene.
It's an infamous scene.
Okay.
Where he basically says that in far more colorful language.
Headphones on. It's a headphones on clip to watch. Yeah. So I think that that's true of humans generally. It's certainly true of venture investors. At least, and the good ones are willing to be, contra consensus, but there's a lot that are it's just going to flow down from public markets and multiples. And then I'm going to get in this deal if everyone else is in this deal and I'm not, if they're not.
But again, that's so wild.
I know.
So you have local investors in you, right?
Yeah. We have Paleon.
Paleon.
And they're the main local ones.
Okay.
Then we've got a couple New York folks, a couple Bay Area folks.
What is your sense of the Utah venture community?
Dang. We're gonna do it.
Let's go, man.
I mean, in what sense? Just generally, or any sense? Anywhere I want to go with it?
At this point, I just want you to
sure. Let's riff. I mean, I feel like I think there's more competition, which is a good thing. I think that I'm a believer in options, and I think it makes everybody better. So I think that's great. I think that we've been lacking until fairly recently, like true seed funding. So like as I dabbled and I almost started something, and I have lots of friends who have, and seed funding here has traditionally been like, come talk to me when you have 100K of MRR. It's like, that's not
seed.
That's not seed, right? Like I get it, and it de-risks it certainly for the investor. But I mean, I think that like the hardest thing, and I think Utah's a little unique too. It's like people have families early. So the hardest thing is like health insurance and like paying the mortgage, right?
Mm-hmm.
So absent that, like you got to start something, you still need your job. And I think that's where most startups go to die, right? It's like, oh, I'm meeting with my buddy every Thursday night. And it's like, you're not probably going to get that far. Some people do, and huge props to them. But I think, like Convoy is like starting to like fill that need. There have been angels, but I think having true seed investors.
Do we have true seed? I know Pelion just did announce that they're going to do a seed thing, and that felt like seed when I read that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I saw that too, and I don't remember seeing whether they said that like you could literally be zero, and kind of like idea.
I don't know that either.
But that to me is seed, right? Like that's a Silicon Valley sort of like seed idea or pre-seed, whatever you want to call it. But like, yeah, I think that's missing. And then I think, I mean, there's this like interesting, I think maybe you've talked about it, but like, and I will get back to the venture thing, but like if you want like an actual true legitimate tech ecosystem, you have to have companies that go the distance.
Yeah.
And don't just get sold or bought, right?
Yeah.
And I think there's probably some connection to how the kinds of investors we have, where you don't have like massive pools of capital, right? Like who and you can solve for that, but I do think that like the way you've seen fund sizes increase, like every 3 months, Peterson or Album or Paleanter kicks someone, announces a new fund, and I think it's great. But you're gonna want to see like $1 billion+ funds, because
and you've got to write bigger checks. The bigger the fund,
and they kind of hate it because it's harder to get like return on that, right? But like, I think it makes it so that if someone's writing a $200 million check, they're not going to be okay with a $1 billion exit, right? Like the whole thing is they're underwriting to a big outcome of an IPO typically. So I think that we have more funds, they're getting bigger. I think that's awesome. I think we need maybe a way of saying is like it seems like we're good in the middle, and you could use some really early stuff, and then it'd be great to see some of these like big huge funds, so that we get people who are, and they can go outside and get it if they want to go the distance. But I think that'd be helpful.
Yeah, that's actually a really interesting perspective. Yeah, I don't think we have. This Pelion thing looks really cool, and you have like these syndicates. Like I'm thinking of what the Gundys do.
Yeah,
that Beehive, like, and that feels. I don't know that we have a strong angel community.
Yeah,
like we maybe used to. I remember Salt Lake Angels and Park City Angels. I don't know what they're doing.
I don't. Yeah, I've heard of Park City. I don't know any of those folks. I don't know anyone. There was like Boom. Well, you were part of
Boom Startup.
Yeah, weren't people doing some? I don't know.
I was like a YC or Techstars.
Oh, it was like more of an accelerator. Yeah. I think but this stuff takes time, right? It's like you get people who get exits and then they write checks. I've done a little bit of that. But it takes time. But I think that it would be awesome to have a couple of really competitive. I mean, I think Convoy does True Seed. Like, I could be wrong.
Oh yeah, Convoy. That's the other one I was thinking of that has like that syndicate. Yeah, for sure.
But those are all relatively new. So I'm excited to see like what they do. But they're writing small checks into really early companies. Which is cool. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, and it's like hard.
I have no I feel like when
I would imagine that's hard.
Oh, I mean, as someone who's done a little bit of it and felt like, okay, I like be great at this because I'm an operator. I mean, it's just impossible. I had a series A or B, like it's a math problem. At a pre-seed seed, like I don't have any idea how you do that. I've done it and I'm like, I'm doing okay, but it's super hard.
Why are we so good at SaaS in Utah? What do you like about the SaaS model?
Well, I like the SaaS model. I mean, from the company perspective, I mean, there's this like growing movement against it a little bit where they're like,
is.
You're
like those
renting,
base camp guys or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't know. And I think they take it a little far, but I kind of get it. But I think SaaS aligns customer and company incentive a lot, where it's like, if I just ship you this server, then like I don't have an incentive to, and in fact, I compete with companies like that. I compete with companies that still have servers and closets, and they haven't done anything with that software forever because they got all the money up front. Now they try to make money on like services and support, but like over time, the R&D investment in those companies is minimal. And it's great for the companies because obviously, it's perpetual, or at least till they churn. So, but it is changing. I think, AI could potentially, there's a lot of, thought leadership, which is kind of like a painful term, but like if AI is driving outcomes and reducing maybe the number of people that work at a given business, like then a seat model doesn't make sense. So we'll see where it goes. But I think SaaS great. What was you asked me? What do I like?
Why are we so good at?
Why are we so good at it?
Like Utah's really good at it.
Really good at it. It's kind of the only
Silicon Valley's really good at it too.
It's the only thing that we've proven to be really, really good at. Right? You've got some outliers, but like
consistently, we're really good
that's
at
like our thing, right? I mean, man, I go back and forth. So once a month, someone probably calls you from Forbes or Wired and is like, I'm coming to do a story on Utah. And they want you to say it's because of the missions, right? I don't know. Like, I think that's probably a thing on balance. Like, you want to knock doors somewhere,
Yeah.
That probably helps. But I think that's
maybe... not to distract you, hang on, because we'll get back to that.
Yeah.
But don't you hate the way we get written about?
Yeah, I absolutely hate it.
I could write those articles.
Oh.
In your
sleep.
In my sleep, like exactly what they're going to say. Can you believe this? Sure. Pioneer heritage and this is a
plus missions.
Then like there's a whole section about politics.
Yeah, plus there's no diversity.
Yeah.
Like it. Yeah, I mean, I don't like it. Because it's just tired, and like I don't, and B, I just feel like it misses some of the nuance of the story. The thing that I like the least about it, though, if I'm being totally honest, is the reaction to it, which is like I sort of want people to like act like they've been here a little. It feels a little like whenever there's like a story on Utah, there's this like big explosion on LinkedIn. Yeah. And I'm like, we
it's
should.
Like a Forbes contributor.
Yeah.
Can you believe it?
Yeah. It's like some dude, in his basement. And yeah, the other thing too, though, is like, I feel like we read our own press a little bit, right? Like I live in the SaaS world. They do a Cloud 100, Bessemer, and I think Forbes does Cloud 100 every year. Do you follow this? Like
Alex Conrad does it, right?
I don't know the name of the guy, but like, do you know how many Utah companies are in the Cloud 100?
It's a good amount, isn't it?
It's one.
Wait,
it's Lucid.
Is that new?
No, it's been around a couple of years.
No, but like the Cloud 100 that the Forbes does, I remember Qualtrics was in it, and
Qualtrics would
Domo
be
was
in it. I mean,
it's
for private like companies that haven't.
So we're
exited.
so it's only Lucid, huh?
Yeah, it's Lucid. So, and you could quibble with the methodology, right? And you could say, oh, well, Pluralsight would have been, or Qualtrics would have been, which is true. But like, I mean, Silicon Valley has like, whatever, I'm making this up, 60 or 70, and New York has like 20, and Austin had like, we won. So I think as cool as what's happened here has been, I feel like we should be hungry still, because like it's still relatively small, and we got a lot of wood to chop where we're like a truly first-class tech ecosystem.
Let's go back to why Utah's so good at it.
Okay.
You were talking about the missions. Yeah,
I mean, part of me wonders if it's like just DNA and what happened to get started here. You've got Novell, right? Which wasn't, I mean, so we should say maybe B2B, right, is maybe a better term for what we're talking about. But like B2B now is effectively just SaaS, right? So Novell's kind of the like little seed from which, so many of these companies have sprung, and the venture firms. And so part of me wonders if it might just be a little bit more coincidental around that. And then it just happened that the next couple, Domo, Qualtrics, those are the ones that sort of like come to mind.
Omniture was a big deal.
Yeah.
Which was before the Domo Qualtrics.
Right. But also very so I don't know, like, and then you get people who have the capital knowledge connections to start companies, came out of those companies. So I don't know if like our first big win had been a social network.
Yeah.
I don't know. Would we be the social network state? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. That is interesting.
What do you think? Do you think it's like a Utah thing, or do you think it's just a coincidental, like, hey, this is where we started, so we're just building on that?
I think we're just really good at it. Yeah. I think that's where the expertise is. That's where the mentorship is. That's where the money is.
Sociocultural, like, missions pioneer.
It probably plays, like you said, like a little bit of a role, and maybe even more than a little.
Right.
But it's not the whole thing. That's crazy. It's what all of our VCs invest in.
Right. It's what they know. Well, yeah, it's just this,
it's what all of the people who've been successful know.
Right.
It's the community that you can surround an entrepreneur with. Everyone understands the model really well here. Like, I think it's more to do with like you said, like we're really successful at that.
Yeah.
And that's what our ecosystem is.
Like, if you're starting a marketplace, like, you're not going to call Ryan Smith, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you would. He's a smart guy, but like his true value add would be
money.
Helping me figure, tickets, right? But like his true value add would be like, here's how you go and create a B2B SaaS company, right? So I think you're probably right. It's interesting though. One company I worked for, Peak, Rizwana,
Mm-hmm.
I ran their Utah office, which was at one point probably 90% of the company. And they, along with a bunch of other Silicon Valley companies, as you know, came in and opened up sales, support, BDR, like customer-facing people. And I will say the one argument I think for the sociocultural thing is I remember talking to them about why, because they spun it up before I got there. They're like, man, we looked at a bunch of other Western cities. So part of it was like a cost thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was so hard to pay people those salaries in San Francisco. But they were like, we settled on this just because like there really was a vibe of, the younger folks, these are more entry-level roles, are a little bit more serious about life just because they're like rolling up in a minivan.
Yeah.
There's probably
the stakes are higher.
Yeah.
The stakes are probably higher.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think for sure, like we're getting married very young.
Yeah.
And so the responsibility, and they're not doing that.
Although less so.
Really?
Did you see, I can't remember where I saw this. Utah has the single largest decline in fertility over, I can't remember, 10 or 20 years or something like that. And we're below replacement rate on just births. So we get a ton.
Wild.
I know. We get tons of people moving in. But like if you just sealed it, like we would be below replacement rate. So that's
scary.
Big change.
That's actually kind of scary.
I know. It was shocking to me.
Yeah. I don't.
So maybe these dynamics change a little bit over time as we become a little bit more like the rest of the country.
How often are you in Silicon Valley?
I mean, I probably go 2 times a year, 3 times. I have investors there.
Is it still the capital of tech, do you think?
Yes.
I think so.
I mean, that's what's funny. Like, Miami.
Miami's not.
It's like,
I honestly think Utah's better than Miami.
It's like 5 people who moved there and they're just loud and on Twitter.
Yeah.
I mean, who else would even be in that conversation?
New York. Austin likes to think they are, but I think those are mostly like corporate companies.
Yeah, it's like Facebook sets up offices.
But I don't think there's one place that would say we are Silicon Valley. I think it's like Silicon Valley or anywhere else.
Yeah.
And that's what Silicon Valley is competing against.
But even
Silicon Valley versus the world.
Sure. But if you aggregate everywhere else, I don't think, it would depend how we were slicing it. I don't think it would be close even.
Mm-hmm.
Like New York would be number 2, but like if you combine New York, Austin, Boulder.
Austin's not even in the top. Yeah, and we're better than Boulder. I think we're better than Austin. But Boston, we're not better than like Boston. Yeah, I think Boston would probably be 3.
But I just don't think you come close. But I don't know. Like
Seattle maybe.
Yeah, Seattle's got a lot. I don't know. It just feels like that's where the energy is, and kind of feels like people were fleeing San Francisco, which I get. It was kind of crazy there, but it feels like they maybe figured it out a little bit.
They're coming back.
Yeah.
Well, AI, that's the epicenter of AI, and that's all any of us are talking about. So, yeah, I agree with you. I don't think that'll ever be displaced, at least not in our lifetimes.
When your sort of ranking rubric, when you say we're better or we're not as good, like what is that a size thing for you, or is that like how do you?
No, that's just Utah homerism, probably.
No, but I'm just like
I would have no reason to say that. I've never been asked to follow up until I can explain myself.
I'm getting away from my role. I'm never going to be invited back. I am curious though, because I think the Utah booster is kind of interesting because number one, like there's this assumption. I'm not saying it's wrong or it's right, but it's embedded and never discussed or questioned, which is that we want to be bigger.
Yeah.
We want and with no cap, right? Like the bigger, the better.
Yeah.
If we could be a 10 million person state, great. A 20 million person state, twice as good. And I don't know if I feel that way. You feel
I don't
that way?
at all, which is weird from a guy who runs an organization called Silicon Slopes.
I know. It's like bringing international media here.
There's so much brand equity behind the term Silicon Slopes. I mean, obviously it's our organization, but even just generally how we're referred to it, that it's impossible to change at this point.
Yeah.
But it does get this, it kind of sends a signal that you want to be Silicon Valley. And that's the last thing I would want Utah to be, right? I would want us to be like very uniquely us.
Yeah.
Which I think for the most part we are, but whenever we start imitating other ecosystems, I don't think it goes well. The true reason why I think we're better than Miami and Austin is I think we have more entrepreneurs than they do. I think they have bigger companies that move there.
Right.
They have like big companies that set up second offices there or second HQs or things like that. But I don't think their venture scene is as established, or I genuinely think, and again, don't ask me how to back this up, but I think we're probably like the entrepreneur capital of the world. We're trying to per capita.
Yeah.
Like most people are trying.
We punch way above our weight.
Yeah. Most people are trying to start something here.
Yeah.
Which I don't think is particularly normal.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I think quality over quantity is sort of how I think about it. Right. And that like, I don't have it. Like I go to California, I'm like, it's not what I'm after for Utah.
If we wanted to be in Silicon Valley, we would, right? Like that's not the hardest thing in the world.
Yeah, I mean, our home prices are starting to replicate that. But yeah, I would agree. There are distinctive things about Utah and in general and our tech ecosystem in particular. And I would love to see those grow and continue. But man, like you get like, it's just secrets out a little bit and it's getting like try to go skiing, try to go up a canyon.
Yeah, it sucks.
Try to drive on I-15. Like comes with some downside too. And
maybe we should go to Silicon Valley. Yeah. You're like convincing me like, maybe we should leave.
Just going to cross out the slopes. And, but I think, it's not a crisis, but I'd love to see us just maybe a little bit more thoughtful about like, not us, I guess I'm talking about like from a policy perspective, like, we got to like get ready for this stuff.
And we should start, and by the way, we're really good at biotech, like Recursion is incredible. We don't talk about Recursion enough and everything that they've done.
I know.
I think they're an incredible company. And I think we have a really, really good biotech scene and support, particularly coming out of the U and all of that. Like, I think but there is a point where I wonder, like, does SaaS go away? And I know those Basecamp guys are like, whenever they do anything, it's like
a religious.
It's so intense.
Sure. It's like starting a new.
Like when Apple wouldn't put their app in the store for like 2 weeks, it's like, we need to take Apple down. Sure. Let's go. Oh, what?
Yeah. Well, they have an anti-AWS thing too. Like part of me wonders if it's cynical and it's just like a great way to like drive.
It's good marketing.
Drive sort of, leads. But who do you think, you mentioned Recursion, like, Who deserves more acclaim and prominence company wise?
Nate Walkingshaw.
Then yeah.
With like again, like 100%. That's something else. It's like
so cool.
So like I don't know why I would be proud that that's being built in Utah, but like I have pride that something like that is being built in Utah.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
it's incredible.
That's so cool. I love that.
That's a generational.
Yeah.
The impact. Yeah.
I think he's got
difficulty
something
of
beautiful
it.
there.
Yeah.
Entrada.
Yeah. Entrada kind of like flies.
We don't talk about Entrada
under the radar.
Entrada's a monster company.
Big. Yeah.
And one of my favorite people in the world leading it, Adam Edmonds. Like,
good guy.
Yeah, I think Entrada, we don't talk about them enough. There's another one we don't talk about enough that's a monster. It's Pattern.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I like
that's
heard they did
like
a
company
transaction of some kind a while ago. I haven't heard. That's payments kind of.
It's
like e-com.
E-com.
Yeah.
It's an e-com platform.
Yeah. Just lurking under the surface.
Yeah. And then Health Catalyst, a public company doing, I mean, we could go on and on forever, but what anything that's like kind of out of the SaaS model, I really find really interesting. Like, oh man, well, that could spur a whole industry inside of the tech community. For sure. That would be sweet.
Yeah.
So
e-com hasn't been like a big thing for us. Be cool to see some, Redo, e-com and Route, I guess. But
is Redo and Pattern same thing? I don't know. You know what? I don't know what most companies do. If I'm just being honest, I don't know what most companies do.
I don't know a lot about Pattern. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think they do the same thing. Okay. I know ish what Redo does. Redo and Route, I think, do similar things.
Okay.
I don't think Pattern does, but correct me if I'm wrong, Pattern people.
So what does the next 5 years look like for you, for the company?
Man, I think in like the simplest terms, it's figuring out the stuff we've been talking about, which is how do we leverage AI to make accountants better, more effective, more efficient. And that it's like a little painful to me to talk about AI because it's such a buzzword. And like we've all been through blockchain. I mean, like there's like the whatever the buzzword of the moment is. And a lot of them don't end up panning out, right? And I'm not like taking some, this isn't like a hot take, but like it is different. It is qualitatively different. Yeah. And so I think it's spending the time not getting out too far in front of it because there, again, are limitations to the technology. And that's what's so like a little painful about it is that it's so good until it's not, like if you, like you see the headline about, Francis Ford Coppola's new movie. And like, they showed these, because this new movie is kind of getting beat up by critics, right? Mm-hmm. And so there's this trailer that showed comments from critics on his past movies, kind of like panning them like The Godfather and Apocalypse.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out they were totally made up. So some marketing guy, probably an intern, was like, give me some quotes of past Coppola movies that ended up being good, but the critics hated.
Yeah.
And so they built this whole advertising campaign around it, and they were just made up, totally false.
That's cool.
And so that's just one weird little example of like what's challenging about it. Like, it's powerful and it's amazing 83% of the time, but then the other 17% makes getting the 83% like really hard.
Yeah.
And we, we're dealing with that. So I would say in one sense is that, I mean, in the more kind of boring corporate sense, like, yeah, I mean, accounting is a huge market. It's dominated by really, really old. I mean, do you an accountant?
Mm-hmm.
And do you interact with their technology at all?
I have to go there and sign.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. Every year I have to go there and sign.
Yeah. And that's actually one of the hardest things about pitching to investors is, they live in this tech thing. So you're like, okay, we're going to go replace servers, and they're like, 2024, my friend, like that pitch was valid 15 years ago, but that's true of accounting. Like I used to, up until 2 years ago, I just switched firms. Like I got a manila envelope with a pencil and a, return envelope with no stamp, right? Accountants, you know, I had to pay for my own, but like, it's like, are you married? Did you get divorced? Did you have kids? And that's kind of like the state of the art in accounting today. So there's just this massive ocean of firms that we're trying to help modernize. So, you know, do that. You got to hire, and then you got to raise money. And
I just use the hometown accountant, the hometown CPA.
Your guy who you've
always had since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
And he like probably rides a horse to work still and things like that, which is way cool and why I'm still with him. But I got to go like sit in the lobby to hand my stuff off. Yeah. And then like,
you got your like grocery
I've
bag.
actually never even thought about
your grocery bag full
How crazy is it that I literally had to do this year, go there and sign.
Yeah. And you probably write a check.
Yeah. And you have to write a check.
Yeah. I mean, 3 out of 4 partners at accounting firms are retirement age. So, you know, they haven't, it's like, I'm going to retire. I want to like learn something new. And so there's a massive shift going on in the industry that we want to be a part of.
That's a huge opportunity.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. We want to build a great company.
You are. And thanks for coming on. Thanks for the leader you are. Thanks for being in Utah.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. That was
super fun. Yeah. Good to see you, man.